The MenScape
The
podcast.
MenScape podcast with Carl.J. Ashley.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to you wherever in the world you are from Tipperary. This is the MenScape podcast for February 2025, sponsored by Ancient Spiritual Tours of Ireland, a fantastic company that you need to look at on the website. And this evening, our special guest is Mr. Brian Noonan, coming to us from Blessington in Wicklow. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great now that I'm speaking to you, Carl. How are you?
Without any further ado, won't you tell us who are you and what do you do?
So, as you introduced me, I'm Brian Noonan, or Brian of the Oaks, depending on which day of the week it is and where I am. I'm a shamanic practitioner,
Uh-huh.
a man of the land, man of medicine, sound music, medicine. I really love the shamanic way, really live by it as best I can. I find it really aligns with me. I'm also a shopkeeper. I have a beautiful store called the Home Store on Shupawiley in the heart of Blessington Village, which is a collective of a Irish craft gift store, wellness space, home improvement store, and soon to be cacao and coffee outlet, as in takeaway.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in there. And then I also work on the land, kind of restoring old buildings in a shamanic way, in a real connected, conscious way back to their former glory. That's my special bit of work that I love to do, and it really puts a spark in my heart. So that's a little bit about me. In the day to day, I also run men's groups, men's retreats. I work here in Ireland and I work abroad.
Fantastic. So there's a saying, Jack of all trades, master of none is better than being master of one. But it sounds like you're master of a few trades.
Master of getting to know myself and living, and understanding what this journey is and what it entails for each one of us, and how I can turn up in the most authentic version of myself.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's possible.
beautiful. Yeah. And you're no stranger to the MenScape podcast. We had you on a couple of years ago. Was it February 23?
Yes.
And
Or
in that couple of
22.
years, 22, go away.
22, I
Was it
think.
3 years? Goodness
3
me.
years.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 years ago, and entering that space, coming on, really not fully understanding where I'd be 3 years later, and what a journey it's been. Wild.
What you were saying was leading quite nicely into the notion that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and that commitment to being the best version of ourselves that we can be is a recurring theme both in the Menscape group, on the podcast with the beautiful, amazing, and inspiring guests that I get to interview, and also just a commitment to ourselves, really, outside of anyone else or what we do. It's you have the power of divine will manifest as a man or a woman in this lifetime, and we have to be consistently showing up for ourselves every day, day in, day out, and whatever that looks like for us,
Mm.
and being socially connected in the world as the social beings that we are, but also taking time to go within, to introspect, and to look at our shit and to sniff it and to flush it away, move past it, move beyond it. And I guess you've had plenty of experience in that respect.
Yeah, Carol, and it's so true. And I think all of us can really, put our hands up. I suppose my experience from a young age is, coming from a broken background, what they class as a broken background, mum and dad not being together from a young age, and a decision had to be made at home and really, bring what was the best situation into light. And then leading from there, that would have been 1996, 1997, and leading from there in that time, in that era, through life, trying to be the fixer of the problems and trying to be the pleaser. And then, seeing how that evolves in life and how it can chew us up and eat us and spit us back out into different versions of ourselves that we turn up in the world to. And, in a very fast moving world where we're really not as conscious or as slow with our thought or our emotions or our feeling as we once were, we can then lose ourselves and we make decisions from them places and end up in different places: dark, sad, lonely, angry, frustrated.
Two things that come to mind there. One is the awareness around these patterns in the family system. So you mentioned the fixer and the
Mm,
people pleaser. There are quite definitive roles that emerge in sort of hypnotherapy. One is the rebel, one is the fixer, one is the sick one. There's these
mhm.
different roles within the family system that seem to be played out by the siblings until we develop the awareness of them, and then we can sort of choose something else.
Yeah.
I forget what the second thing was that what you said provoked. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, them pieces that you've mentioned, not just one, but all of them played out in my life. All of them had a very, very pivotal role to play at some point or another, and when we reflect back on our journey through this life, I'm 34 now, so I'm still quite a young man, but with the work I'm doing and the self-development and the shadow work and different archetypes, I'm uncovering different roles and responsibilities that I took on as a young boy and into my teenage years and my young adult years. And, you know, when we start to do the work and discover these pieces, it's a really hard step to take, but also the brain, the emotion, the love and the heart that, at that moment when you were taking them roles on wasn't for a reason to, you know, become somebody else. It was because you felt you had to. It's because you felt you had no choice. It
Hmm.
was the right thing
Yes,
to do.
that complements the second thing that what you were saying brought up for me, which I've now remembered. The the role that we play, as in the fixer, the people pleaser, the rebel, the sick one, unconsciously or subconsciously in the family system, actually becomes our personality as we go into adulthood. So once you've realized, and I'm fortunate in that I'm very privileged to work with people all around the world that want to tell the story of their journey through Right Coach Island.
Yeah,
What we see is literally that our personality is the sum of our control mechanisms, defense mechanisms, and survival adaptations from childhood wounds.
yeah,
So, in the family dynamic, if like both of us, your parents separated, you you need a way to get love or to feel loved or to get attention or to feel seen or to feel heard. And depending on what attributes we have, we might develop different behavior patterns in order to get those needs met.
yeah,
And then if we don't have the awareness that has defined our personality, then we carry on doing those things. Once we've realized that these sort of unhealed family wounds and childhood traumas have created who we are, we can literally drop them like a hot stone. Say,
yeah,
well, if that's not serving me anymore, I don't need to take that with me. So in some sense, we've all got this two double suitcases of baggage that we're carrying around.
yeah,
And you'll see this in no greater way than if you're in a relationship with someone and your two baggage, your two baggages meets their two baggages, and you even have children together and stuff, and then they start carrying the baggage and on it goes. So the awareness around it is
yeah.
huge.
Yeah, it is huge, Carl. It's a great way of putting it about the baggage and, the awareness of also the shadow self that develops, the shadow parts of you, that are tucked deeply away, and in the shadow work of releasing these parts, bringing them to the surface and acknowledging that they're there or they're in play at times, and bringing awareness to our inner child, and just touching into that piece about the inner child, connecting in and seeing how that child is. Because at all times, even as an adult self, we have this inner child who's at play. And if we're not tending to them, they can be in control. Means that we can be turning up like little children. Us grown men and women can be acting from a very childish place because we're getting hurt.
Yeah.
We're getting saddened or frustrated or angered by a way that we're maybe hearing something, even though someone may be just trying to communicate with us in a way to meet their needs or their boundaries. We're taking it in, taking it personal because there's wounds that are being activated, triggers, and then pieces are ours to look at, to do the work on. But, most people kind of cycle into a place where things become too hectic. And some people decide to do the work, and other people decide maybe to break up with their partner and continue on or find someone else, or, be on their own, because sometimes the work can feel too great or too big, or, it's not the right time. And that's when, the bags become even heavier. And unfortunately, in this day and age, it's 2025, we haven't seen a decrease in the suicide rate of young men. We haven't seen an increase in mental health, really becoming the forefront of what's needed to be invested in, or to be assisted with. And in fact, we're seeing the opposite. So we're in an evolving time where mental health, your well-being, your happiness is on the line, and we're being pushed and work harder and harder, and things in life are getting more difficult to achieve because the price of things are like a rising really out of people's reach at times. So coming back to the land and coming back to ourselves, like, being able to walk in a forest or along the beach or put your feet in the sea or have a swim, these free things are a way of taking time and slowing down and allowing the soul or the emotions really continue to speak to you, or begin to speak to you, in a space that you can then move from, and in a space that you can make decisions in. But with the Instagram, Facebook, fast way of living, constantly the earbuds in, it's distraction, the TV on, we're not focusing on us, on ourselves. And, I keep saying this as my mantra, and I keep saying it to people, and I'm met sometimes with challenge. You are the most important person in this world right now. Nobody else, not your mother, your father, your sister, your partner, your child. You are. When you get on a plane, if there's an emergency and the oxygen mask falls, the pilot will always advise that you put your own mask on first.
Right.
You must serve yourself. Because if you are not turning up in your best, then you are actually failing and letting down the people you love most around you. So by doing all of these pieces, the pleaser, the fixer, pushing yourself and just keep going and going and going, you're not actually serving anyone. You're
It's
doing
quite a
more harm.
masculine thing anyway to be a fixer, and women can kind of complain that, they just want their guy to listen to their shit, really. The guy offers a solution and it's like, here's a problem, let's solve it. Tends to be quite a sort of a masculine energy oriented thing, whereas, and this plays out in our lives
Mm.
quite often, where we're just, you see, one of the things that tells us we're on the right road and the right path is when the little synchronicities start to happen. It could be a piece of music, it could be a word. One of my clients was describing a brilliant woman in Chicago, Lisa. Hi, Lisa, if you're watching. She described this phenomenon of seeing a pink car. And the figures, the statistics, are like it's literally like one in millions if you're going to see a pink
Mm.
car. And every time I see a pink car, I think of her, and I think of this synergistic energy behind knowing that you're on the right path, or whatever that means. Yeah, it could be a golden eagle for you. It doesn't necessarily need to be a pink car, but you could say, God or the universe or whatever, show me a sign that this is meant for me or this is right for me. And something will happen in nature, an omen or something, if you're paying attention, and it'll
Yeah.
blow your mind.
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. That's absolutely so true. And, it is this disconnection we have really taken part in since the Industrial Revolution, of the disconnection from the land, the 9 to 5, the gym in the evening, all of these different pieces where, we've disconnected from the land or from feeling these simple parts that do come in on the daily. You could be driving down the M50, and see a bird of prey, a buzzard, for argument's sake, sitting in the tree. If you're paying attention, if you're aware, if you're allowing your spirit, your body, your soul to do what it does naturally, and these are the pieces, the pink car, the bird of prey, noticing something different in nature that sparks something deep within our DNA. There's a deep release in our body when we're within nature and see something that brings so much joy to us. That is, 1,000 lottery wins, and it's natural, and that's our body releasing different chemicals, having different experiences. That's bringing joy to us. And that's what we've disconnected from. And the more
So,
we disconnect from it, the more we look from it in other places, whether it be porn, whether it be the social medias, whether it be alcohol, whether it be smoking, we go deeper into them portals, the more we disconnect.
or in my case, chocolate sweets, Brian.
Chocolate sweet.
I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking. See how I just pulled it out of thin air? Did you see
Yeah.
the magic there?
Yeah. There you
Stopped
go.
drinking. I stopped smoking. I stopped gambling. I stopped watching porn. Don't fucking ask me to stop drinking the peppermint tea and the
Yeah.
dark chocolate.
Yeah.
That's my fix these
I'm having
days.
a peppermint tea here myself.
So tell us,
Positivity cup there as well. Yeah, getting in there.
as part of
So,
your work with the men's circles and the
yeah,
men's groups, how are you helping men reconnect to the land or reconnecting to those emotions that they might have suppressed
yeah.
from the wounded childhood that created the sort of personalities and egos that we needed to create to survive?
One very simple thing, Kath, and people ask me this quite a lot. Safe, sacred space. Give people the space with their brothers or their sisters or both.
Hmm.
This occasion is just men. Give them the space to come and reconnect to themselves. Give them the opportunity to be heard, to be seen, to be witnessed without judgment or shame. And that's the beginning. The rest generally happens very natural. When we can give people the space to just tune in, to speak freely.
So just being in nature anyway, it doesn't necessarily need to be up a mountain or by the sea or by a lake. It's more about the feeling seen and heard than the natural environment, shall we say.
Yeah, like, even in wintertime when I run the Us Mighty Men gatherings and I hold them in the wellness space in the shop, we're not in nature. Disclaimer
Mm-hmm.
alert. We're not in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a building. So we can't always control the nature element, but we can create safe, sacred space anywhere. You can do this at home. A little altar, candle, a space that you designate as yours and that's sacred and it's safe and that you can sit with yourself. And yeah, really, to truly hear someone and not need to try and fix their problem, to say to someone, is there anything you wish to share with me? Would you like a reflection or would you not like a reflection? To give the opportunities to be just heard. We have a
Wow,
world full of fixers
yeah,
and we have a world full of problems. But do we have a world full of people willing with an open heart to listen?
it could always use more.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing I can relate to as Right Coach Island and serving clients around the world, telling the story of their journey. It's holding that space to listen without judgment as well.
yeah. Yeah, and like men's work is so new in Ireland to a degree. Like it has been happening for a long time. But for young men in their 30s, 40s, 20s, some of this stuff is new and feels edgy. And that's, welcome, but like this isn't something that's new on the world. This is, something that's as old as man and woman, as us human being. Men
Old
gathered
as the
with,
hills, right?
yeah, men
Yeah.
gathered with men around the fire. They spoke freely. They could talk about the cock and balls emotion or feeling. You say to a man now, can you breathe into your cock and balls and see what it says? They'd nearly fall off their chair, some of them, because we're so disconnected to our power, to our masculinity. And this is some of the work that really needs to be reconnected with. All of us men, all of us men that were born men, have a cock and balls. That's a fact. It's our place of power. It's our place of purpose. It's our sex. It's our energy.
Hmm.
And when we're disconnected from it, we're disconnected from one of the most powerful parts of our body. Now, unfortunately, over time, men have taken advantage of their cock and balls and done great damage to the feminine. And this is not a part of blame, or this is not a part of taking responsibility. You, in fact, may not have done anything to be a part of that, but it's a part of actually connecting back to yourself and bringing deep respect and reverence to your whole being and your whole body, but also to this sacred part that can give you sustenance and really give you the greatest joys and energy and knowledge as we connect with the earth. And it's
Hmm.
a tricky conversation to bring up. It's a tricky piece to try and really go into, because we're coming in this country in Ireland with a lot of shame. We have a lot of shame, and especially us men. Like there is a lot of shame on this land still,
Right.
you
I
know.
don't think
So
it's just here,
no, but
of
just
course,
to
but
speak
there
from
but
here.
but there are certainly um I love this, and it's been one of the core teachings in one of the books I'm reading at the minute, which I started reading a few months ago and making very slow progress with it. And it's The Hero's Journey, or
Mm.
the Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell. And what he's highlighting there is that we've lost in Western culture and society the ceremony and the ritual and the process around young men being in a circle of older men, and there being an initiation ceremony.
Mm.
And it's usually occurred by some kind of wound or wounding, a physical wound. This is told brilliantly in the story Iron John by Robert Bly, which I'd recommend to everyone, and has come up on other sort of podcasts where he's telling the story. And it's really like an archetypal story of the young man's voyage from cutting the apron strings, trusting in the universe, heading into the forest with a stranger, a wild, hairy man, and journeying towards his own self-empowerment and becoming the king.
Yeah, yeah,
The boy becomes a king. But it's not a journey without pain and suffering. And in some ways, the more we try to avoid the pain and suffering, the more we can bring it upon ourselves.
yeah. Absolutely, Carl, and that's a beautiful way to put it. This is part of life, rites of passage, which have been lost, which were so important, and how can a father teach his son the rites of passage if he was never taught it?
It used to revolve around pubs and drink,
Yeah,
and the initiation ceremonies of today. I've no idea what any young sort of 13 to 16, 17, 18-year-old man, or a teenager or young man in stepping into adulthood. I've no idea what might perform that function of an initiation ceremony. Mine was being away from home with the cadet paras that I was in as part of school. I was on a 2 week camp in the middle of England somewhere, dressed up as a soldier with my beret had to be to one side and my boots had to be cleaned with spit and polish, or you were in for a fucking roasting. And on the second day on this 2 week course, I was running across a concrete pit. We were doing an assault course, and the lad next to me had a fat log on his pit, and I had a thin log on my pit. I was running across this thin log, and I looked over and saw that he was just getting ahead of me a little because it was slightly easier for him. So as I was losing my balance halfway across the log, I thought, this is shit or bust. Either I drop down into the pit, climb out, and then I'll be behind him, or I stretch out as far as I can and just catch the edge of the pit and run on, and I'll have a chance of catching him.
Yeah.
And the face on me as I watched my foot just fall. The boot just missed the edge of the concrete pit, and the front left cheek of my face smashed against the edge of this concrete pit. Carlos slumps into the pit, regains consciousness some minutes later, being attended to by first aid people and all the rest of it. And unbeknownst to me, this physical wounding took place, and I had a patch, I had an eye patch, my eye was busted, and the infection in that eye spread to the other eye. And the next morning, I woke up blind. I couldn't open either eye. I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
That's a bit of a fucking rough rites of passage now, yeah.
But I actually had a whale of a time on that two
Yeah,
weeks. I got out of the 6K morning runs.
yeah,
I used to hang out in the naffy where there was the only women in the place were feeding me tea, and I
yeah,
was playing pool, and I learned how to bend all the rules in my favor off the back of this.
yeah. You know, these are things that are learned on the field, in the land, in the forest. You know, not learned by handing your child a Game Boy or whatever. I don't even know what they play anymore. Nintendo's. I couldn't tell you. Like, I don't know. You know, and disclaimer, I've no children, by the way. So like I speak freely, but you know, it's not the piece. Someone says to me, my God, your kids must be absolutely bored. I was like, I don't have any. So yeah, just in case anyone's wondering.
It was a brutal accident, Brian, but
Yeah,
it was only years later that I realized it served as an initiation. I had no
yeah,
idea at the time, only that when the 2 weeks was over, there was tears in my eyes that I had to go home and go back to my mum and my stepdad and have to watch the 6 o'clock news on BBC One every time we sat down to fucking dinner, whilst Monkey Magic was on BBC Two at the same time, and my heart was singing for that.
yeah. It's look, it's you know,
Remarkable.
this is the big piece, you know, this is the big piece now. It's like, you know, what kind of a world do we want to see in 10 or 15 years? Well, what we need to do is look at the generations who are growing up now. They are our future, you know. So we really need to invest in them. We need to learn ourselves and educate ourselves how we can be the best versions of ourselves. Because, you know, through the lines of lineage, you know, our ancestral stuff just keeps following through. So how can we step out and deal with our shit? We're grown adults. We are used to pain. Someone punches us in the face, we can deal with it. It's different for a child. But how can we turn up differently for them? And even me, like I'm focusing on when I do have children, how can I turn up the best for them? But in the meantime, I'm focusing on myself. I'm turning up the best I can for me and my loved ones around me and my friends, because that's most important.
Do you know what's
And for the
quite
world.
ironic?
What?
When I'm a sort of a lay Buddhist. I'm a member of a Sangha, a community of lay Buddhists at a Sunyata Buddhist center in East Clare. And over the last 15 years or so, I would have had plenty of opportunity to sit with monks and nuns, meet them, talk to them, attend sort of camps and retreats, and be in that community space where there's an emphasis on, mindfulness and
Mm,
meditation and sitting with what comes up. And you meet some of the most beautiful, amazing people. And what was coming back to me from the people that I was speaking to was, you might meet a man in his 30s and he might say, do you know something, Carl? I don't think I want to bring children into this world. I don't want to meet someone and have children. I don't think this is the kind of world I want to bring kids. And I'm like, you're exactly the kind of person that needs to be bringing up children in this world because you've had a fucking think about it. And it's like, it seems to me, and I speak as a father of four and a man that's had four children, at least four that I know about anyway, and it's like, I I can honestly say when the children were born, I was a less healed, more traumatized version of myself, still carrying heavier. They might be a bit lighter now, but they were still, two suitcases full of this shit. And it seems to me that a lot of the people having children in the world are coming from a space of ego, unhealed family trauma, and wounding. And the people that are not having children are the ones that have done a bit of work on themselves. There might be more stepping into wholeness and stepping into who they are. And so you've got this irony that the people more qualified to have children, the ones that should be rearing children, are the ones not having them. And we can all see every day examples of people that shouldn't be having fucking children that have them. And it's like it comes back to this idea that in the old Native American Indian tribes like the Cree and the Sioux, and the Mohicans, you name it, they lived in harmony with the lands, and the child rearing was done by the elders in the society, in the community. The child birthing, when you're at your peak of child birthing, you're 18 to 21
Yeah.
as a man, and as a woman, maybe 16 to 18. And that doesn't correspond with our mental age for child rearing. And here we are in a society doomed to fail when the child rearing is being done by the child birthing people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
as if it's been deliberately engineered to sort of fail us.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the old tribes, a man was judged by how many children he had. That is not the point of I have 20 kids, I'm a king, but it was of how many children he had that he could care for, that he could feed, that he could show his love for equally.
I'd say
You
that's
know.
probably still the way in the extended family systems. After reading, I think it was Nelson Mandela's autobiography, his father had five wives.
Mm.
And it wasn't like one for each day of the week, lads. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It was like over a vast area, and
Yeah.
each of those five wives treated him as he could expect his own biological mother, because they had so much respect for his father, they all treated him like he was their own child.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's a really interesting piece, Carl, and people are definitely moving into the world with more knowledge. People are awakening, people are seeing the effects on children, and they come in as these beautiful, pure white lights of hope and freedom and joy. And we really need to turn up better for them so that they can live freer. And, our ancestors really struggled and fought hard for our existence today. We shouldn't forget them. We should remember them and we should fight hard for the future, the here
Survival.
and the now.
Sometimes it was just about survival.
Yeah, yeah.
And when we learn of the horrific things that have been done to people, especially here on this land,
Hmm.
the atrocities that have been perpetrated against the Irish, and even going back to pre-Gaelic and pre-Celtic times, the Druids and the shamans and the people the indigenous people of where we live today, huge atrocities. And I think this is the pattern all over the world as well.
Yeah.
So there is shame in the family system and it's being carried through. And it's only really until we look at it and step into it and own it, like you say, we can start to understand it and let go of it.
Yeah, and this is what it's about. This is the work. We take just a little bit of responsibility ourselves, and Like, this isn't just for the kids. This is for us. Why not live a happier, brighter life?
We are the kids as well, Brian. There's
Yeah,
still a child in that body of the man.
absolutely. And like, we all deserve a happy life. We all deserve freedom. We all deserve good days. And yes, bad days come and shit happens, and we have to work in certain jobs we may not want to work in to get to a place. But having the end goal, still having happiness in between there, still having a purpose, a sense of purpose, a connection to nature, a respect, a love for yourself.
Right.
They're things we really need to reconnect with.
A lot of the work I do with my right coach clients is around self-empowerment
Mm,
and looking at how the choices and decisions and behaviors of the past and the younger version of ourselves help to create the circumstances we then inherited,
yeah,
and then look at what we're doing in the present moment in terms of choices, behaviors, decisions, and how that's going to impact the future that we're going to inherit further down the road.
yeah,
And stepping into genuine authenticity, self-love, self-care, self-worth, and self-esteem is probably one of the greatest gifts that you can do for yourself and naturally for your children and for others.
yeah. Absolutely. It's such a beautiful gift to give to yourself, and that gift passes down through all the lines. It reaches all the people that you care most about and who care about you most.
So I've got a couple of questions for you.
Go for it.
Before I ask you about the Us Mighty Men, the Awakening that I can see on your screensaver there behind you, which it'd be hard for me to forget if I can see it there. What has been your sort of greatest lesson in life? What's the hardest lesson that you've had to learn,
I'm
would you
still
say?
working on it. Self-forgiveness.
So forgiving yourself for being an arsehole and doing bad things, or
No, forgiving myself for maybe being aware that there was something going on and maybe not stepping up fast enough. Being aware that I was having an impact that wasn't in a positive way in people's lives, for 15 years, for 13 to 15 years, you know, for not really stepping up to who I really wanted to be, to allowing other people persuade me maybe to do certain jobs or work a certain way or behave a certain way because that was maybe the done thing. Um, so that radical self-forgiveness is something I'm still working on as I emerge into Brian Noonan fully, this 34-year-old man who knows his boundaries, knows his disease, his desires, his needs, knows exactly what he wants and can hold very solid agreements. So as I move into that space, I have to be able to forgive parts of myself that, pieces come up with. And it's like, oh, about time type of, emotions or feelings and old versions of myself. And give thanks to my journey because it's needed to go this way. This is why
well,
I'm here now.
you're way ahead of me, Brian, in the sense that I didn't start waking up till I was 44. So you're at least a decade ahead of me, brother. You know?
Age isn't a
No,
number thing, not a numbers game here.
that's a fair point, but
Yeah.
at the same time, we're all at different stages on our journey.
Yeah, and you can't make someone change. Like, I've had, mothers ringing me going like, if I drag my son to you, can you make him change? He's smoking weed. Not make anyone change. You're
He's,
going to be in this
I'll smoke it
process.
with him.
Yeah.
I'll help him smoke it. What are you on about?
It wouldn't be a good vibe, Carl, say that to a desperate mother on the phone. But yeah, like, we can't make anyone change, but certainly we can
What?
suggest new
I'm
ways
only
of
saying
living.
that as a long-term stoner myself, but
Yeah.
I shouldn't be flippant because you don't know what they're cutting the weed with these days.
Yeah, it's a whole different world now.
You can't get
And
decent shit anymore, no?
no, well, not that I know of. I don't smoke it, but
Yeah.
maybe someone watching might be able to tell you if you can or can't. But Carol, we can plant a seed. We can lead by experience. We can share stories. We can guide a young man or a man to what we see in this world that is beautiful and that connects us back to ourselves. We can share this knowledge and not put big price tags on it. We can educate people to how our journey from maybe the darkness into the light or the shadow into the self, has helped us, and encourage them, because this is your journey. Like, it's your own individual journey. People can guide you, people can help you get to a certain point, but you must put the key in the door and open it. You have to walk through and do the work.
And this might be the ideal thing to say to that parent is maybe you could give the gift to your child of letting them figure this out for themselves without your judgment and your expectation as to what they should and shouldn't do in life.
Yeah,
And that might actually lead to a path where they don't feel the need to self-medicate and escape through perpetrating whatever addictions they need to survive in an environment where they've got an overbearing parent's judgment on them.
yeah, and look, you hit the nail in the head. We can't I can't pass judgment on any situation with regards to what or where, why that's going on. But
Mm.
certainly it's not going to be a helping contributor, to just not hear what may be happening and just make judgment of your child and be going, you've something wrong with you. If someone is sick, if somebody is sick, we get them to a doctor, we find out what's going on, and we don't give out to them for just coughing and sneezing or vomiting all the time, and this is just a different reaction and a different illness if someone is addicted heavily to substances. And it's the conditioning of years ago that brings in these pieces, so it's to bring healing into that person and to actually work with them instead of judging them and having them feel like they're on their own.
So I guess in some ways, one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn myself is around not beating myself up and forgiving the younger versions of me that could have done better or could have been better. So
Hmm.
I like that answer. So tell me more about the Us Mighty Men, the Awakening, and the weekend retreat. Are the spaces available, and what can people expect, and how can they get in touch with you if they're
Yeah.
interested?
So, Us Mighty Men, The Awakening is happening the 28th of February and the 1st and 2nd of March,
Mhm.
just outside Bantry in West Cork, in a beautiful setting there. It's stunning. It's a retreat for men and men only. It's a safe, sacred space for men to come and be with their brothers, to be led, and to also lead. So what we do in the men's groups, this is a weekend edition of it. So it's a real get out of the house, get out of your head, come down, be with your brothers, be in the space. That's first and foremost.
Mhm.
Disconnect, reconnect to yourself. If you can imagine that wire in the back of the router, plugging it out, and then plugging your own wire back into yourself. You don't need any outsourced information. You're just coming home to yourself. The weekend is being designed from start to finish to nourish and nurture men, all of us, because in the everyday life now, between quick meals on the go, not enough food, not enough nutrition, it affects us. It affects our capacity to think, to react, to be, to work, to thrive, survive. So, my dear brother Lloyd, Spirit Foodie, is the chef. He is bringing some absolute magic to this weekend. This is his offering, this is his medicine, from venison to beautiful lamb to beef. All of this is locally sourced where he lives from a valley. There is no processed foods whatsoever on the weekend. Everything is made from scratch. So we're going to be filling ourselves like kings, eating so well and getting all the nutrition that we need. And Lloyd is going to lead us in some different awareness pieces of what us men should be eating so that we're fully nourished and we're fully nurtured so that we can set foot into the world, from a place of fullness so that when we're working long days or long hours, that we're not draining ourselves. So that's the first point. The second one then is having space to really unwind into your own process, your own thoughts. So there is lots of space over the weekend where the center is fully covered with mountains and trees and beautiful scenery. So there's lots of space to be just in nature if you want to be just with your thoughts. Then we have some programs running, different bits and pieces from some work of the inner child, the shadow, some archetypes. We'll have some sound baths as well every day. So kind of relaxation. We will look at some different anger releases for anything that does come up for anyone. So giving people the tools, educating us, man, how we can release frustration and anger in a healthy way so that we're
Okay.
not carrying it home, and
Yeah.
different
We all
practices.
need to know that.
Yeah. So these are basic tools, but very, very kind of, basic tool bag of things that help us survive in this modern world. My dear brother Sean Mulroney Music, he is joining me as well. And he's going to be sharing, another men's worker is going to be sharing some beautiful magic through his music, but also through his wisdom of the shamanic realms and the work he does on this land, which is very special. So he's going to be guiding with that. We've one or two special guests. I won't let their names out of the bag just yet.
I connected with Sean just this week actually on Instagram. Seems like a
Amazing.
very nice guy. We've got a
Yeah.
bit of music in common. He said he was growing up with The Fall and the likes of David Bowie and Echo
Yeah.
and Bunnymen. So straight
Yeah.
away that
His album is out on the
connection.
15th as well. I'll give him a little
Right.
plug. So if anyone's watching
Valentine's Day.
Sean Mulrooney music, so yeah, he's in Whelan's. I'll be there myself. But anyway, back to the retreat.
Shout out to Sean if he's watching.
Out to Sean. So then we have on the last day, we have a dear friend of mine from Cork, Jonathan Barlow, who is a djembe drummer, and he will be guiding us in a several-hour djembe and chanting workshop. So getting rhythm back into our lives, having fun, having the crack, and we will all take part in that and have some absolute cracking banter and laughter. And that's what this weekend is about. There will be moments of real, maybe reflection, real moments of, oh shit, or wow, or that feels heavy. But that's why it's being led by expert facilitators, because we're here to give you the tools so that you can work through it and support you. And as brothers, that's our job to do. Really important. That's our job. We hold the knowledge that we've learned. We want to pass it on so that you can share it, but also that you can live a better life, that you can be happier every day. Home can be happier if it needs to be. The wife will be happier if
So,
that needs to be.
in
Whatever
terms of
needs to be.
numbers, will you keep it to about a dozen so, or what's
We have 12 men. I have one space remaining, the last space.
Baker's dozen?
Yeah, Baker's dozen. So it's been in full alignment since before I launched the retreat. There was 8 people signed up. People go, "How did that happen?" And I go, "I don't know." But
I believe it. Yeah.
8 people said, "I'm going to your men's retreat," and I said, "I'm not running a men's retreat at the moment." They were like, "No, no, but I'm going.
Yeah, now.
I'm
Yeah.
going. Just send me the link and I'll pay a deposit." I went, "But I haven't got a link. I haven't set up the men's retreat yet." So yeah, we're going to have a few men's retreats this year, but this one is the first one of 2025, a great way to enter spring and the summer, and a great way to get to understand a little bit more about yourself in a gentle, luxurious, beautiful setting, surrounded, like, each man that has signed up is just a fucking legend. Like, I've had chats back and forward over the past few weeks with each man, and they're so sound. They just want somewhere to come, do a little bit of self-discovery work, have the crack, speak to nice other brothers, have some good food, and have a laugh. And that's what we need to be doing in this life. It's got too serious. We have to have fun.
Yeah, you see in whether it's the social media or just in society in general, there's a huge attack on masculinity and healthy masculine energy through obviously the way the Christianity and the patriarchal system has kind of subverted and eroded very traditional and wholesome values. So for men to be able to have a positive role model and to step into a healthy and wholesome masculine energy, for them to then be able to go away with that and then be of service to others through pouring into their own cup first. That's a huge thing to be doing.
It's huge, Carl. And, like, just that touch on the masculine piece being taken away, I'm just going to use the word cock, balls, masculinity. It's not fucking going anywhere. And the more people push, the louder we're going to get. The world needs beautiful men who know themselves. We have so many beautiful women who already know their power and know themselves, are reconnected in covens, they're reconnected in themselves, in their body, in their sexuality of who they are, their intimacy. They know themselves.
Mm.
They're on it. It's time us men got to know ourselves a bit better.
You feel we need to catch up?
We need to catch up. We need to stand up. We need to be heard. Our children, the children of this earth, need strong men to help lead the world. We don't need puppets.
It's
We
coming
don't
to
need
truth
children in
now.
suits. We
There's an
need
old
men who are
saying:
connected to themselves and to the earth.
weak, weak, weak times or hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times creates weak men, and so on. The cycle. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
how it is.
Yeah. You know, like I've had people, if I share something on Instagram and I mention like a man connecting to his cock and balls, breathing into that space, breathing into his power, and they want to take that post, they want to write a report, send it in to the Pope, or I don't know where, because you use the word cock and balls. Fuck me. Like, what kind of world are we living in?
You see every day people masquerading their own unhealed trauma by their need to control what other people say and do.
Yeah. Like, look, we've been here before. There's always a group of people that will just never be happy. But we have to not focus on them. We have to return the focus to ourselves. I stopped watching the news a long time ago because
Happy
the minute
day.
you take the attention off yourself, they've won. Focus on yourself.
The news, turn off the telly,
Turn it off.
take all your clothes off and go run around the fucking forest, Brian.
Look, whatever you do in the evening is your own business. I'm not going to. I'm not going to be leading the
Oh, come here.
nudist association.
I'm conscious of the time. Thanks
Yeah,
for sharing with us about your men's retreat. Where
yes.
can people find you or get a hold of you if they're interested in claiming that last space?
So us mighty men on Instagram, or Healing Misha on Instagram also, or healingmisha.ie. All my details are there. WhatsApp, phone numbers, ticket
Yeah,
tailor links.
we'll put it in the
Yeah,
notes under the video on YouTube when we put the podcast out as per
thanks, Carl.
usual.
Thanks,
Tell
Carl.
me, before I let you go, have you got a glitch in the Matrix story? Has anything happened to you that's been so wacky and so far out? It's had you questioning your very perception of reality. I have a feeling you've got more than one
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a lot of experiences in Peru the last year or the year before last when I was there.
hmm
But in Ireland, I'm starting to feel more. I'm starting to see more, and I live on a mountain in Blessing here, overlooking the lake. And about 4 in the morning, I had this weird, weird sensation. I woke up out of bed, and for some reason, was just looking out the window at the lake, and the lake itself really kind of just looked like it was just something going on the surface of it. It looked kind of shiny or glittery. And there's a little valley I looked down on each side. And in the valley, there seemed to have been a bit of like disturbance. There was a bit of, I don't know what it was, cloud cover, whatever it was, but it was just rolling in. And I thought to myself, where is the cloud rolling to? Because it was rolling off the hills and it looked like it was going into the water, but none of it made sense and still doesn't. And I just thought of the possibility. What if there's a whole other world going on that we just aren't aware of because we're so disconnected?
We are multidimensional.
And that just kind of brought a whole circular emotional feeling. And I was like, right, I better go back to bed.
I thought you were going to say that there was a sword coming up from the lake.
No, 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 no. It was just the clouds rolling off. onto the water, but they weren't going anywhere. It looked like they were going through the water, and it was circular. It was, you know, the most profound, strangest thing I've seen this year, anyway, I suppose. And on the land here, but there is a lot changing in people's consciousness and awareness this year. A lot of people are feeling and experiencing things they may have never felt before in their life, and that's because we're entering new grades of frequency. As we upgrade with different frequencies, everything is a frequency. But as we upgrade and we attune to these frequencies, we start to see, feel, and hear things differently. And then we start to become more aware of the fact that we are these beings that are frequency. And that just brings us into a whole other conversation, Carl.
Absolutely. There's a lot of disclosure at the minute around the secret space program, communication with extraterrestrials, and they're basically preparing us to accept what some of us knew all along, which is that we've been lied to from cradle to grave, and that actually the story of humankind and humanity and mankind and who we are and where we are is a completely different ball game from what we've been told or led to believe.
I know. I mean, I'm more concerned. I'm not concerned about extraterrestrials or UFOs whatsoever. I welcome them. It's humankind that actually has a bit of a fear piece for. The aliens are already here. It's
And they're good and bad.
Yeah,
There are some that are batting for us, and there are some that are feeding off of us. And you could
yeah,
say that about the humans too.
yeah. We're here, we're conscious, we know how to communicate, we know all these pieces, and we're getting more disconnected from each other. So why not just actually start the piece, get the ball rolling, start the reconnections and witness the absolute magic and beauty of it, in the process.
So thank you for your role in helping people on their journey towards wholeness and reconnecting with themselves and the lost parts of themselves.
Thank you.
Is there anything we ought to wrap it up with or finish on? There's a phrase that's been popping up recently, and I'd like your own thoughts on this. And it's going to be in the book I'm about to publish. Um, the actual quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb," which
Mm,
obviously means the relationships that we make and choose and the people we bond with outside of the family are much stronger because they're of our choosing.
yeah,
And yet, the phrase in our culture is blood is thicker than water, and it's used to make an allegiance to family members and people in the family that then making out that that's stronger than anything we could have with anybody outside of it. Imagine that the quote was subverted completely in its meaning. What would you have to say about that?
we yeah, they say we choose our friends, we don't choose our family. I disagree. Family can be your biggest teachers. And we all have a deep place of love for our family, even if they hurt us or have hurt us over the years. We will
Right.
still love them unconditionally. And even if we're angry with them, we'll always love them. However, that's one element of love. There is a serious element of love when someone can love you unconditionally and be a friend, a best friend, a brother, or a sister, and accept you and not judge you and not lead you to a place of shame or fear. And I feel that statement really, yeah, brings us to that place because, we choose our friends, we assert our boundaries, we assert our needs and our desires. And if they meet us at all of them and we can meet them, they're closer than any brother or sister because they respect us,
Thank
they
you.
see us,
Yeah.
they
In
want
a
to be in our
sense,
lives.
in a very real sense, actually, we can only allow that unconditional love in from outside of ourselves once we've been able to adopt and manifest and live it for ourselves
Yeah.
and unlearn or let go of any lack of self-love, you know?
Yeah. And this is, Carl, like one last note I'll say, it's so hard to unlearn. You know, it's a really hard piece, but it's worthwhile doing because most of the stuff we've been taught isn't ours. And the story you need to write is yours.
Hmm.
So experience your own truth, your own learning. And there is no getting it wrong.
And it never seems to end. There's always another piece.
Goes on and on and on and
The
on and on
more
and
the
on.
more levels you rise, or the more you raise, or the more the work there is to do,
Absolutely. Have
seemingly.
fun,
Yeah.
laugh, learn, love, be wild, be free.
Enlightenment is literally that.
Yeah. Be all of them things.
Become
Be
enlightened.
wrong. Apologize. You know, be all of the pieces that make you fucking human.
So we'll leave it there. Have you got any good jokes? Have you got any shit jokes?
I heard a few awful jokes the other day. I better not say them. I'd get into awful trouble. Awful trouble.
The only one I've got is, what do you call a hippo with one leg?
Ah.
A hoppo. Bit naff, I told you. I'm good at dad jokes that are naff.
Yeah, I'm really I used to have some great one-liners. And then yeah, I just I don't know, forgot them, you
So
know.
we shall leave it there for now. All that remains is for me to thank you for giving up your time to come and join us on the MenScape podcast, Brian.
Thank you, Carl,
So
for giving
much,
up your
brother,
time.
and take care and God bless, and we'll see
Keep
you
doing what you're
soon.
doing. You will indeed, brother.
Thank you.
God bless.